Today we're going to be going over my full review of the brand new Rasasi Hawas Kobra. So this is the first new Hawas that I've gotten my hands on. And I say the first because they released or announced like, what, 4 all at the same time, maybe even more. There's a couple, 1 or 2 for women as well. But we have Cobra, Atlantis, and then Malibu, and then one more that has a different shaped bottle. And maybe a couple more that I'm missing as well. The point is, just out of nowhere, a whole bunch were announced. Slowly, these are starting to trickle into stock here and there on some random websites and such. So I finally got my hands on Cobra. I've been wearing it for a while. It's been a great time of year to wear this one as summer is winding down. We're going to go into how this smells and what it compares to. So when you spray this one on, that opening, it starts off strong with a cinnamon, spicy, citrusy, green, fresh opening. It really is punchy. It's vibrant, but at the same time, a little bit warm, a little bit peppery, a little bit spicy, but still maintaining a nice, fresh, green, and slightly earthy undertone. Now, those of you who have smelled some very popular scents here of recently, from Louis Vuitton, and I'm more so talking Imagination, you would get that comparison off the opening immediately. Now, is it as simple as saying that this is a Louis Vuitton Imagination clone? It is definitely heavily inspired by Louis Vuitton Imagination. Would I say that it is 100% exact? Not quite. There are some key differences which we'll touch on in a minute. Now, when you just take a look at things on paper, it's very easy to just come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, it's Imagination, it's the same, because the note breakdowns are very similar. So the notes that are being shared here are the green tea and the cinnamon, 2 of the main ones that you get off the opening. You do get some of that bergamot, some of that orange as well. You know, one thing that this also reminds me of a little bit, and in a roundabout way, Imagination reminds me of this a little bit as well. So Bulgari Tiger / Afnan Tarathi Blue, that type of style. You guys have probably smelled one or both of those before at this point in time, pretty popular. Basically, those are known for a very strong forward focus on bergamot with quite a bit of amber as well. Mainly the similarity that I'm getting here is just the type of bergamot being used in Hawas Kobra and even in Imagination. That particular type with that amber reminds me a little bit of that Tiger / Afnan Tarathi Blue smell. So, you know, that's kind of one of the side roads that you can go down with this one. And I've got to admit, that opening, it does really resemble Imagination a lot. Once it starts to dry down, things do change a bit. That's kind of where you get into the fact that it might not be as cut and dry as it seems. I find that Cobra is a little bit more woody, a little bit more cinnamon focused, even as it settles a little bit. And just, it still does have the green tea and kind of that fresh aromatic smell as it dries down, but it doesn't have the same type of lightness that Imagination does, or at least to that extent. I find this one to be just a little bit more heavy and a little bit more kind of strong in the dry down, I guess is one way that you could put it. So we're going to take a look at the full note breakdown, even though I've covered most of them already. Up top, we have ginger, bergamot, and tangerine. In the mid, we have cinnamon, neroli, and green tea. And in the base, we have musk, woody notes, and amber. If we jump over to the Imagination note breakdown, the top, we have citron, bergamot, and orange. In the mid, we have neroli, ginger, and cinnamon. And in the base, we have Chinese black tea, ambroxan, and guaiac wood, and olibanum. So we're missing a couple things, and a couple things are tweaked a little bit, but again, everything stays the same. Now, keep in mind that is not the end-all, be-all. Of course, there are going to be differences that I've already discussed, but it kind of gives you an idea of probably what they're going after. There is no doubt, it is without question, that this is heavily inspired by Imagination. Anybody who says that it smells nothing like Imagination, they're not even similar at all, that's just not really an accurate take. I mean, this is very, very subjective. It's kind of like the argument people make when they say that Nishane Hasavat smells nothing like Creed Aventus. You know, it's not necessarily a clone of Aventus, but it is still heavily inspired by, and that's a similar thing with this right here. What it comes down to in this instance is people not really liking clone brands, people not really liking maybe the Hawas line in particular, especially because they just dropped like 4 or 5 cents all at once, which I have my thoughts on that as well. That's probably not really the best look for a fragrance line. You know, flankers every year already can kind of dilute a lineup, but dropping 5 at once within a year is kind of extreme. I very much look forward to trying all of the other new ones, and I will get those as they become available, but again, this is the first one I was able to get here. So let's talk about performance. This is an eau de parfum concentration, which is to be expected, and so how does it perform? Well, it actually performs really good. Now, one of the problems with Imagination has been price to performance ratio. I don't even know what it retails for at this point, $330, maybe a bit more for a 100 ml bottle. That's a lot of money. And I've always gotten pretty good longevity out of Imagination. Not something that I would consider to be an outright beast mode scent, but pretty good. Now, is pretty good enough for $300+? You got to be the judge of that, but most people would probably say no. When it comes to Hawas Kobra, this one is going to be around $50 or less. We'll just say that because they're new. They're going to be more expensive now, $50, $55 probably. As time goes on, the price will drop down. Just a very common thing that just happens with new releases, right? So whether you judge it on $55 now or $30 in the future at some point, this one performs really, really well on my skin. I've been getting a very consistent 8 to 9 hours of longevity, and then projection is on the stronger side of things. I do a spray or two on my hand, for example, especially as I've been testing it here recently, and it projects. Like, I don't really have to bring it up to my nose to smell it. Just normal, you know, hand usage is enough to waft it up in the air to where I can smell it. One thing that's cool about this, and something that I really like, is it has this cooling and refreshing smell. So I've already kind of mentioned how it is a little bit heavier and woodier than Imagination, but it still does have this cooling and refreshing type of smell, primarily coming from that green tea accord. So it is still being utilized heavily in this one, which is not really all that common of a note. You see it used here and there, but not to the extent of, you know, so many other popular fragrance notes. And it works really well. So I mentioned early on in the beginning that this is a good time to be testing it because it has been. Temperatures are finally comfortable again. You know, it's still summer as far as like getting sunny and, you know, 80, something like that, but it's nowhere near as humid. It has been beautiful outside, cool in the mornings, cool in the evenings, and I've been really enjoying wearing this one. As far as when you would want to wear this, it could easily be an all year round scent. It's very simple. Spring, summer, fall, winter, anything would work. My preferences would be that I'm going to gravitate towards it more in spring and summer. That can be a pretty extended time. We could, or at least I around here, could start wearing this comfortably in April and, you know, all the way through to the first part of October, you know, as far as the temperatures go, still having enough warmth to make this one appealing. So that's quite a big chunk of the year that you could pull this one off and really get some good use out of it. Once you start getting into, you know, November through March, when it's pretty cold outside, this isn't going to be as appealing to me, although it still could work and it would have the performance to work. I would choose something else. So I'm not going to drag this one out anymore. Hawas Kobra, nice, cooling, refreshing green tea scent, a take on Louis Vuitton Imagination, but with a twist, a little bit more of a woodier, spicier twist in the dry down is kind of how I look at it. Still fresh, still cooling, still just very easygoing, but with, you know, a bit of a tweak of the DNA, which I really can't complain about. You can sign up to my free mailing list at the link down below, because if you want to be notified when these hit discounters, that's where I'm gonna tell people on my mailing list. I'll post over on my YouTube community tab as well, so it wouldn't hurt to subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my mailing list. That way you never miss out on any discontinued fragrances, great deals, or new releases like this coming into stock. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.